booze, adultery, anger, failed relationships, and more. Then, sobriety. It's the 5th day of May in the year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is Recovery Monday, brought to you by the good folks at Powell CDC. When in doubt, when someone in your family, someone that you love, someone in your church, someone that you care for seems to be out of sorts. You know, you might know that they drink or use drugs, but you don't really know for sure. Or you know for sure, but you don't know the amount. And you do know the amount, and you have no idea where to turn. It's Powell CDC. They have incredible people standing by the phones. Little white guys in white coats won't come running to your house and nab the person or you. They'll just listen. Powell CDC. Make sure you give them a call the next time someone you love is suffering from one of life's hurts, habits, and hang-ups. Of course, the lovely Lila Stafford, president and CFO of Powell CDC, is in the house. Bob Montserrat is not with us today, so our producer Ryan will be watching the chat. And our special guest is Carl Drautz. Did I say it right?
You said it right, Mac.
That is German, isn't it?
It is.
It is German.
Absolutely.
And Carl is here to share a little bit of his story. And people ask, why do we do this show? I mean, after all, it is called Anonymous, right? Well, there are those of us who have, well, we didn't have a choice, actually, of whether we're going to be anonymous. The good Lord came up beside us and said, I've prepared a plan for you, and I've brought you to this point so you can step out of the darkness and show people that it's a recoverable disease, that with help and with hope and with Him, the God of your understanding, that you will find peace and serenity from this horrible disease called alcoholism and addiction. Now, there are many people who stay anonymous. They have to. Their work requires it. Their friends require it. That's why a 12-step program such as this is so vital in our community. And by the way, if you didn't know, Des Moines and Central Iowa is one of the best places to get into a 12-step program. There are more meetings per capita than anywhere else in the country. That's how strong of an organization this 12-step program is throughout Central Iowa. So, Carl, how long you been sober? How many 24 hours?
I think it's about 28 and a half years.
You think?
I'm not sure.
How come?
Well, because it's a day at a time. I only celebrate my birthday for a week, according to my sponsor. That's it.
For 1 week?
1 week.
When
that's
you hit
it.
it, when you hit
when
that
I hit
next
that
year.
date, that's it.
All right. So for 28 and a half years, you haven't had a drink.
Correct.
What was life like before that for you?
When booze was working?
Yeah, because you're not an old man, so you must have lived a good portion of your life sober.
No, I lived a good portion of my life drunk.
Okay. When was your first drink?
When I was 16.
And tell me about that. You remember it?
Yeah, I sure do. It was I was fortunate enough and blessed to be able to play high school football. My hometown's Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we had a group of guys. We played Thursday afternoons because in the area of Philadelphia that we lived, we didn't play night games because of corruption and crime and so on and so forth. So we played Thursday afternoons, the varsity did. And I fell into a group of guys that were really cool, wanted to be just like them, and we kind of had a motto, win or lose, we always booze. And so on Thursday nights after the game, we would hop on over to the nearest liquor store from where we lived. One of the guys was a little bit older than us, and he drove, and we'd get some drunk to go in and get us some booze, and out into the woods we'd go. And it was Schmidt's of Philadelphia. I remember that because my dad was a foreman at the brewery. And
Hold on, it was Schmitzen?
Schmidt's, Schmidts.
That was the beer.
That was the beer.
Okay.
Schmidt's, C. Schmidt and Sons.
Okay.
German also,
Yeah.
obviously. Although I wouldn't have drank it otherwise. But anyway, I remember taking the first quart of Schmidt's beer at the age of 16 and chugging about half of it. And then I remember throwing up. And then I remember, let's try this again. So I chugged the second half and it stayed down.
What were you going after? When you said you chugged it, you just automatically chugged
Absolutely. There was no sipping.
it. What what were you going after? You just wanted to get drunk? You wanted the feel of it? Or there's something triggered in your brain, you just kept wanting more?
That's a great question, Lila. I didn't know this when I was drinking, but I couldn't stand the reality that it was in. I really did not like the reality because I always felt less than and I felt apart from. And I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. So I remember that second half of that beer that I chugged, when it stayed down, it altered my perception of reality.
Yeah.
It took my pimples away. It made me more outgoing. It took my fear away, particularly after I drank the next half of a quart and then the full quart and so on and so forth. And so when booze was working, Mac, you asked, it must have been horrible. No, when booze was working, it was my best friend. I perceived, and here's the deceit of alcoholism that I never knew when I was drinking, obviously, even though I thought I was one of 5 that knew truth. I truly, honest to goodness, had no concept of this at all, but it was altering my perception of reality, which is what I wanted. It was my best friend. I perceived that when I drank it allowed me to do things that I couldn't do without drinking it. You know, I mean, it opened doors for me. It made me more outgoing. I was very successful in my business. And of course, this is all blessings that the God of my understanding has given me. But at that point in time, I didn't really consider that was the blessing. It was the blessing of booze that brought me out of my shell and allowed me to do the things that I didn't think I could do on my own. And when it worked, it was my best friend.
And when it didn't work?
Then my behavior got pretty bad. It got pretty bad. It became very wrecking. In fact, from time to time today, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this as we go on, it's alcoholism. It has nothing to do with me drinking.
Right.
At all.
Right.
I haven't had a drink in over 28 and a half years. But I'll tell you what, I've still acted like a practicing and drunken alcoholic, what I call the dries, that basically can justify my behavior and so on and so forth.
And I want to stop there for just a second, because I think this is important for people who have no experience with this disease or with alcohol to understand that you've been sober 28 and a half years, and yet the actions that go along with alcoholism stay with you. They hang on your shoulder like a coat of armor, and at any time you can whip them out and use them as a weapon.
No question.
Yeah.
No question.
And I don't think people realize that. You know, I did not pick up a drink. Here's the truth. We don't think I ever had more than 2 drinks in a row until I was 34 years old. But boy, did I have the ism. I mean, I had the ism since I was 8 years old. I had booze around me. I was raised in a family that was functioning alcoholics, highbrow, white-collar functioning alcoholics. But I didn't like the taste, so I didn't drink it. But I was an absolute alcoholic in my actions. Mm-hmm. And I don't think people get that sometimes.
Well, I can never coin. People will ask me, and, I think whenever the hand of AA reaches out, I've got to be available to help. But that's part of the reason I'm on this show today. And Lila and I are dear friends and have been for a long time. And so when she asked me to do it, I think it's important to reach out to folks that may or may not be in need.
Yeah.
But one of the things I cannot do, and people will ask me as they reach out, do you think that I'm an alcoholic? And my answer to them is, I can't answer that. I cannot answer that. And they ask, why not? Are you? And I said, the reason I can't answer it is my committee, my alcoholism, which is a disease that I believe is a disease. It passed my parents, it passed my mother, it passed my father. Both my grandparents were alcoholics, and I believe then it picked me up, and the gene carried on with me. But the disease that I deal with, the alcoholic disease of alcoholism, is a disease of deceit. It will lie to me and tell me that I'm really not an alcoholic.
Right.
So for you to ask me, am I an alcoholic, I can't tell you that. But I can tell you this, that if alcohol is causing a problem in your life, we probably need to take a look at what some of the things are. And then if you put the plug in the jug and you quit drinking, I truly, honest to goodness, I've seen this, where people stop drinking, and all of a sudden, by giving up the alcohol, their lives get better. Mm-hmm. I don't believe then they're alcoholics. I believe they had a problem with booze or with drugs or whatever other substance they choose to alter their perception of reality. If their life gets better without a sufficient substitute and just by quitting drinking, in my humble opinion, I don't think they're alcoholics. Now, put the plug in the jug for me, and because my main drug of choice was vodka, and then have no alternate substitute, I'm going to be miserable, I'm going to be irritable, I'm going to be restless, and I'm going to be discontent because I don't have the sufficient substitute that I need that's going to allow me to have that altered perception of reality take place without the booze.
No,
Carl,
and see, for me, you put the plug in the jug for me, and I'll just go to another drug.
yeah, right.
You know, because
Food,
I
whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Carl Drautz is our guest today. He's 28 and a half years sober, sharing with us what his life was like, what happened, and what his life is like now. One of the things that I'm playing with, a theory that I'm playing with, is, see, people, how do I know if I'm an alcoholic? How do I know if I'm an alcoholic? Well, there is no real test, as you have just said. I've said, but here's the one thing that I can tell you about me. I'm sitting around a table of 5 people, and we're all drinking. And all of a sudden, the guy across from me takes a drink and goes, oh, okay, I've had enough. Whew. I don't like that. What do you call it? Change in...
Altered state of reality.
Yeah, altered state of reality. I don't like that feeling. Somebody get me coffee or water. When I got that feeling, it was pedal to the metal, let's go, go, go. And I think a lot of times that's where people can understand if they abuse alcohol. That when they get that feeling, their common sense brain says, okay, you're being affected now, and you've got to decide whether you want to be affected.
Well,
would you agree with that or run with that?
I totally agree with it. I've often said this, and I truly, honest to goodness, believe it, that if they invented a pill or modern medicine came up with some type of cure for alcoholism that would allow me to be a normal drinker, I wouldn't take the pill, nor would I go for the cure, because from the jump, as I told you earlier, I didn't sip that quart of Schmidt's beer. I chugged half of it,
Yeah.
and then threw up. You know, I don't like. I mean, it's amazing. Why would I want to drink like a social drinker?
Yeah,
you just
right.
talked about it.
Right.
They sit around and sip their drinks.
Right.
Yeah.
They leave half of their drink on the table.
Right.
And then if a bartender comes up to them and says, would you like another? They say, oh, what are you kidding? No. I'm
I've
starting
had
to
enough.
feel it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, what the heck are you drinking for if you don't like it that you're starting to feel it? That's
Right.
why I drank. I had to have that altered state of reality because I couldn't stand the state I was in.
But you know, even when I got high, I was going for even a better high.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I could never get high enough until I was passed out and didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, that's I don't know what, still to this day, when I'm not spiritual and I'm not connected to big God, little Carl, and his big Carl, little God, I still have a problem with that definition of enough.
Yeah.
I don't know what's enough power, what's enough money, what's enough chrome, what's enough sparkly stuff, what's enough sex. I don't know what that is. I have no idea if I'm not connected. You know, so I can fall back into that state of what I'll call dryness and not sobriety, if I'm not connected on a daily basis or not willing to take the actions that this program requires.
I don't think I've ever done this 2 times in one show. You just said another thing brilliant that I want to stop and make sure people understand. That when you stop consuming alcohol, if you're not connected with the God of your understanding, mine's called Jesus Christ. I know yours is also. When you're not connected to them, all you are is a mad, sober drunk.
Well, a mad, dry drunk.
Dry drunk.
I use and you probably heard me say this in meetings, but, you know, when I was drinking, I was a drunken horse thief. When I'm not connected to the God of my understanding, and when I'm not sober and I am dry, I'm a horse thief.
Right.
That's the only difference. I'm still stealing the livestock. But the only difference is I'm not blaming it about the fact that, oh, I did that because I was drunk. What I'm doing is rationalize it, well, I'm stealing livestock yet. Mm-hmm. But you know what? At least I'm not drinking.
Right.
And that's the disease of deceit that we deal with, that when I'm not connected to the God of my understanding, Jesus Christ, God, what happens is that the justification and rationalization comes back in that this behavior is okay, and if you would have just shaped up and wouldn't have said what you really said in the first place, I wouldn't have to act this way.
Yeah.
Which has nothing to do with it at all, because what I've done now is make you the problem. And the reality of it is, alcohol was never the problem.
Right.
Right.
The problem was Carl Drautz.
Yeah.
That was the problem, and I could absolutely never see that when I was drinking. It was, if you just all shape up, I wouldn't have to drink.
Carl Drautz is our guest today on Recovery Monday. When we come back, what was life like as Carl Drautz? Drinking. Any drugs at all?
No, I
Not
smoked
really?
marijuana with my dad one time, and
Okay.
I got paranoid, sleepy, and hungry. So that
and the
was it.
Cheeto stock went up.
was
So
it.
when we come back, Carl's here, Lila's here, Ryan is watching the chat. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you, thanks for listening. I love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Right here on Recovery Monday on 99.3 KTIA, Iowa.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places, especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. 21 minutes after the hour, we're back on this 5th day of May in the Lord's year 2014. Is this Cinco de Mayo?
Yes.
Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, my son found $1,000 last year on this day in the streets of LA.
Really? So this is the day that the Latino population celebrates the independence of Mexico from... No?
No, it's a battle that the Mexicans won against the French in a little town called Puebla.
Okay.
And everybody thinks it's the Mexican Independence Day, but that's in September. So.
Okay. All right. Well, and for some of us, this was a big day and a good excuse to go out and drink lots of margaritas and Mexican beer, kind of like St. Patrick's Day was. So I don't know about you, but I don't miss that. I don't miss hanging around with the amateurs all day long.
I don't miss that at all.
Yeah. 28 and a half years. That's how long it's been since Carl Drautz has had a drink. You're at 27.
No, I think I have 28.
28?
I think we're around
We're
the same.
about the same age.
Yeah.
Okay. And were you two both here in Central Iowa when you got sober?
I was.
So you saw each other in the beginning months and years of your sobriety?
Yeah. Except I didn't go to AA
Yeah.
I didn't go for 4 years. So.
Right. Yeah, she's got a great story. And you really, we should have turned to you in that last segment because you were not drinking, but you were still not happy, mad, angry. You had all the isms.
Yeah.
What made you finally go?
All of that, I just couldn't do life anymore. I was just so messed up in the head. And actually, I went to a therapist to get straightened out. And she said, I won't see you unless you go to some meetings
Oh, okay.
because I need more help.
Yeah, right. Oh, I can.
We've always
understand.
known that.
I can understand that. Yeah, we had a guy in last week that used to pull her out of bushes after she was puking in the bushes.
But she drank at high plate.
She
Yes.
did. She
Yeah.
drank at
High
highbrow
class-
places.
She did.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So, you're drinking in high school. You're a football star. You get out of high school. Do you go to college?
I did.
And drinking continued
Absolutely.
daily.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. When did it go from beer to vodka?
In college.
In college? Did you ever go back to beer?
Oh, I'd always warm up with beer. Two or
Okay.
three Heineken Lights, 4 Heineken Lights. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. And then that would fill me up a little bit. So, we'd have to get into the vodka.
Yeah. Okay. And so you're coming along, and what's your career in the beginning after you get out of college?
I started teaching and coaching in a little town called Winterset, Iowa.
Oh, wow. What a great. Did you know John Wayne? Oh, you're not that old.
Not that old.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
And
I've had a lot of work done.
Okay. Yeah, I bet. You look good. And so how did the drinking impact your coaching and teaching in that city?
Oh, absolutely. I didn't think anybody thought that I drank. And a good neighbor, a good friend, a dear friend of mine who was a very successful businessman in Winterset, he and I struck up a great friendship. And he thought it would be very appropriate for us to hang out at a couple of the pubs at downtown Winterset.
Okay.
And I said, Dick, I'm not sure that that's a real good idea for an educator and coach to be in a bar every night after practice and so on and so forth. He said, why? I'm going to introduce you to everybody that you need to know. And he did that. The only thing that I can remember in the 5 years in Winterset when I was teaching and coaching right out of college, I remember, I'll never forget this young man. In fact, I still am in somewhat of contact with him. His name is Ray Parker. He was one of my offensive linemen. And I was taking a break from class, and it was in the morning, and I was very thirsty. I can't imagine why I had a fire going. It's because I was just as drunk that morning than I was when I went to bed that night. And so I took a drink of water, a big, big drink out of the fountain, and Ray happened to be in the hallway. And I got up from drinking the water and said, how are you? He said, Coach, he said, are you drunk? I said, absolutely not. Why would you think I'm drunk? He said, because I can smell it from here.
Oh,
That's the only idea that I ever had during that period of time, that somebody might be able to smell it, because I thought you couldn't smell vodka.
Yeah, my students asked me the same thing, and I'd taken a shower, and I thought, oh, you can smell this?
How could you smell
Yeah,
vodka?
you always say you can smell vodka.
Yeah.
It's so sad to say this, but every once in a while there's somebody that comes to a meeting who's been drinking. And I didn't really ever notice the smell before. Maybe that's because I smelled the worst.
That's probably right.
But
I can always smell it, but I'm always trying to tell myself that isn't what I smell. I'm trying to talk myself out of it because I don't want to believe it.
yeah.
Right.
All right. So now, when you were drunk that morning at the drinking fountain, was it because you drank that morning, or was it still from last night?
It was from the night before.
Now, are you married at this point?
Oh, sure.
And what's your bride saying?
She was just as sick as I was, because it's
Okay.
a family disease.
All right. So she was chug by chug with you.
I'm sorry?
Was she drink right along with you?
Oh, no. She was a social drinker. She did not have the gene. Absolutely
Oh,
not.
absolutely not.
Oh, no. In fact, what she'd do, and this didn't happen so much in Winterset, but it happened when I left teaching and went into the professional career outside of education, got into the insurance business. And, obviously, again, I kind of kept that same MO. You're gonna find your best clients at bars. I mean, why not? I mean, look at how well it worked for me with my buddy down in Winterset, introducing me to all the folk. And so when I got in the insurance business, that was the same place I did. And she would have our oldest daughter call me and say, Dad, I think it's time for you to come home.
Now, how old was this daughter at the time?
She was probably 9, maybe 10.
Ooh, boy, that had to hurt.
That was hurt. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've talked a lot about that since then. Yeah, that hurt.
So your daughter would call you and say, Daddy, you need to come home?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you react to that?
Anger.
Okay, every time.
Every time. Don't need to come home.
Okay. In fact,
Not yet.
probably stoke the fire a little more.
Oh, sure. Put your mother on the phone.
Yeah. And then what was said?
She wouldn't put my ex-wife wouldn't get on the phone.
This is your, well, obviously, she's your ex now. And so you're in the insurance profession, and you're just chugging along. Are you still only a nighttime drinker?
Yeah, pretty much nighttime drinker. Well, I wouldn't call it nighttime. I always said that, one of the things, if I had a problem with alcohol, if I really thought I was an alcoholic, because going into treatment, I didn't think I was a drunk because it lied to me. And so I always said to myself, if I ever leave work during the day to go drink, I may admit that I have a problem. Now, here's the deceit. I always found it a way, and this is when I got to Des Moines and even before that, I always found it a way to make an appointment for either a client or maybe a prospective client at about 2 or 2:30. That would take about an hour. And in Des Moines, I can tell you that we're after 3:30, quarter to 4, where I'd head would be right at a place called the Rusty Scupper, which is no longer here.
Right.
And, throw down 2 or 3 drinks at the end of the bar, waiting for Lila to show up.
That was your Bushes, right?
Yeah.
That's where the Bushes were.
Yeah, waiting for Lila to show up. And of course, we didn't know each other then. But, to have the rationalization justification, the day is over at 3:30. That's what the disease did because I wasn't drinking on the job. Well, I think today I found out, I think that the workday sometimes could end at 6 or 7 or 8 p.m., not at 3:30 in the afternoon, but that was the justification. That, no, I don't drink on the job. There's the rationalization.
I'll never forget, and I always thank you. I always call you on my sobriety birthday, and I always thank you for that meeting that we had that day. Number one, because I don't think I had ever met you or knew who you were prior to that.
Yeah, that's right.
Number one, you're incredibly professional, and you run an awesome business. But number two was you knew more about that disease. And I remember you saying that while you and I are sitting in this office, your disease is out there doing push-ups. And I'd never heard that term before. And now every time I hear it in a meeting, your face flashes in front of me. But you had such a good understanding of how the disease impacted you. And you share that very well. I ought to give you some type of licensing fee on this because I say all the time I've got the ego of Manhattan and the self-confidence of a pea, which you always say.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Carl Drautz is our guest today, 28 and a half years sober. Why does Carl come on and share the story? Because it's even going to get uglier. Why?
Because I believe when the hand of AA reaches out, I have to be there to see if I can help in someone else's recovery or at least share the message. I have nothing to do with anybody else's recovery. All I am is the messenger. It comes from a power greater than ourselves.
Yeah, it really does.
It doesn't come from me. I believe when a person's ready to get sober, I think a monkey can carry the message. And if somebody doesn't want to get sober, and Lila and I were talking about this tragedy that took place yesterday with a dear friend's son of ours who died with an empty bottle of booze in his hand yesterday, that nobody can carry the message if you're not ready.
Yeah.
And all you can do is share. That's all you can do is share and suggest, and tell your story. And look for the similarities. The person that is wondering, is there something better in life than getting drunk, talking smart, and being somebody? Is there something better than that? All you can do is share your experience, strength, and hope. That's it. And then let God take over.
Yeah, I always tell people that you're born with a what I call a God hole. And God put it there. It's called free will. And he prays and hopes, yes, God prays and hopes that you'll fill that with him. But until you choose to do that, you fill it with lust and love and anger and greed and drugs and alcohol and pornography and just everything else the accuser can throw
and none
at
of
you.
that is satisfying.
Right.
And that's a thing.
None of it.
And you keep searching. It's like, I'm not full. I need something else. I need something else.
Yeah.
So.
And as a parent of kids that I think might follow in my footsteps if they're not careful, and we're watching this again with a good friend of ours from yesterday, you can't do anything.
Not a thing.
You can't. There's no. And for those of you who think, oh yeah, you could do something. I mean, if my kid gets out of line, I go up and whoop them in the butt and take away their car keys or won't let them. It's not that way with alcoholism.
The book says, and I believe that the book is the truth. I believe that the book of Alcoholics Anonymous is founded through divinity.
Yeah, called the Big Book
for a reason. And if I just read the black parts, that's the truth. But what I can do is get in and read the gray parts, and then I can interpret it under my own superstitions and so on and so forth, and again, rationalize and justify. But the black parts say this, and I truly believe it, that lack of power is our dilemma. We are powerless over alcohol, and our lives are unmanageable. And you take type A personalities like the three of us in this room, that's hard to admit that we have no power whatsoever, other than when we're willing to be teachable and humble enough to act on the grace that God gives us. The only thing that we can change is our behavior. That's it. There is nothing else in this whole world that I have any power over whatsoever of changing. And in fact, I can't change my behavior without divine intervention.
Yeah. I remember that's another thing that I learned from you, that I never understood the definition of humility. I didn't really want humility. That was not my friend. Humility meant that I would tower or cower. It would mean that I would surrender. It would mean that I didn't know it all. And yet you were the one that taught me that the definition of humility is to be teachable. And I love that. I mean, what an amazing, and it's true though, because if whatever you've got to say, Lila, to me, the egomaniac, if I'm just open to listen to you, then that means I might be teachable. And I might be open enough to have somebody suggest to me that maybe my actions when held up to a mirror aren't really what I think they are. And they really are immensely destructive. Yeah, and you were talking about 12-step. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I got really humbled. And Lila used a word on me. She's really smart, by the way. Do you know that? I mean, because of her beauty, you know, you don't think that there's a lot of brain, but you are. I could go back and read what she wrote me because I haven't erased it yet.
Yeah.
She said the reason you felt that way is because you were so vulnerable. Because I got a call from a pastor Easter afternoon. Says, I need help. I got a young man who got busted for drinking last night. I need your help. He called me. And I was the first call he made. And when we got done with the show 2 weeks ago, I told Lila, I said, I think I need a break from AA. You know, I'm just, wow, overwhelmed. But as you said, that's the 12th step.
That's the 12th step.
That's what we're called to do.
That's what we're called to do.
When we come back, what his life was like and then what happened. What finally drove Carl to treatment for the first time and only time?
First time and only time.
First time and only time. And he put the plug in the jug. That's next, live here on Recovery Monday, brought to you by Powell CDC, powered by webcast1live.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I'm administrative manager
I am the senior technician.
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
"22 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then Pastor Michael Mudloff from Westkirk Presbyterian Church in True Blue. Tomorrow, what are the Democrats doing? Tom Coates is in the House. He's got somebody inside of the Democratic camp that's going to tell you exactly what Jack Hatch is up to try to get the governor's seat. And on Friday, an amazing view from the pew. A pastor and his wife adopt 3 embryos. They are inserted into her womb, and not too many months ago, she gave birth to 3 babies that are not related except for her. An amazing story of some of the things that pastors do to help children and the love they spread. And these folks are in town. They're in Des Moines. You'll meet them. That's this Friday live here on The View from a Pew. 21 minutes before the hour, my guest today is Carl Drautz. And Carl is 27 and a half years sober and has volunteered to come on today and tell his story and talk about the story. And one of the things that I respect about you, I didn't mean this to be an admiration society, but I do care about you a lot. But in your business, you work around alcohol.
Mm-hmm. I sure do.
And that's something that I found I couldn't do. You know, I can't go to a place that serves alcohol that I'm a part of anymore. But you can do that. I think that's neat.
Yeah, I can do it. My wife is not an alcoholic. She understands alcoholism very, very well. She is a social drinker, and we have alcohol in the house. We also did in my previous life with my ex-wife. The alcohol was there. The only difference was that she was watering down my vodka, and I never knew it.
Really?
Now my wife doesn't have to do that because obviously I don't drink it. But no, I don't mind being around it. And the reason I don't mind being around it, again, it's a God thing, I think, is that, you know, I'm going to withdraw from, do I have temptations? Yeah. I mean, I mean, I'm an alcoholic. I'm going to have temptations to drink.
A desire to drink.
I'm going to have the desire to drink from time to time. In fact, I'm going to have knee-dropping compulsions to take a drink of alcohol. But this program is a program of action, and in fact, it's the only program of recovery that I know of that says, come to us and we'll change your actions.
Right.
And sooner or later, your thinking will get better.
Yep.
And I believe that the other programs of recovery, which are great, that deal maybe with non-alcoholics, say, come to us and we'll change your thinking, and sooner or later, your actions will get better. Well, the founders of AA, Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob, knew that they didn't have time to sit around and think, because if I sit around and think, I'm in a bad place.
Yeah, look where my thinking got me before.
There's no question about it. So because of the action, if I'm thinking about drinking, which from time to time I do, it's not every day at all. From time to time, I'll think, there's a scene in Silver Linings Playbook, one of my favorite movies. Mm-hmm. Toward the end, right around right after Christmas, they're all in the living room and they're pouring straight Kettle One, which of course I didn't drink the good stuff. I drank Papa vodka, which I thought was really good, about $12 a half a gallon that many years ago. But it's just the way they romanticize that gathering, that with this nice drink of Kettle One vodka, we're all going to really have a good time before we go off to this dance contest with Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper and watch the Eagles beat Dallas. And when I watch that, even today, from time to time, it'll be, holy smokes, with that. In fact, I told my wife, I said, that's one of my favorite parts of the movie. I would just love to imbibe in that group. But see, here's the difference. The scene shows them sipping, each one of them sipping that little tumbler of vodka, whereas I would have had the rest of the bottle before we went to the Benjamin Franklin Hotel in the movie, and then drank the rest of it at the bar and never watched the dance contest in the first place.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
So it's the action. If I'm thinking about it, then I obviously have to not drink. You know, if I'm thinking about yelling at someone, I need to be kind. It's that action that's opposite to what I'm thinking.
So 27 and a half years ago, what was it that brought you to surrender and give up? Sick and tired of being sick and tired. I mean, was it a jail cell? Was it a divorce pending? What was it?
This is probably a little bit different than, a lot of, but I mean, I've got to be truthful with you. People that have been hanging around AA with me and going to the meetings with me know this, and so I'm going to tell you, I did not think I was an alcoholic. I told you we deal with a disease of deceit. So
Yeah.
I thought my ex-wife was the problem, again, and I thought my kids were the problem, and in fact, if they just shaped the heck up, then I wouldn't have to drink. And it just so happened that my ex-wife was working at a place very dear and near to Lila. She remembers it was called Our Primary Purpose.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she was an education coordinator there. And it just so happened that there was a gentleman by the name of Willie B.
Oh, yeah.
And Willie B worked with her, and she, of course, would sing to Willie B about, the perils and tribulations of her husband drinking. And Willie B would give her information about Alcoholics Anonymous, and she'd bring that home. And I'd look at it, and I'd say, well, what is this? And she'd say, well, this is a schedule for AA, and this is the big book, and this is Bill's story, and all that, And so I'd see that at the kitchen table or the dining room table, and, then what I'd do the next day is I'd head off to the Rusty Supper about 3:30, during the work week, and wait for my cronies to show up, and we'd have 3 or 4 vodkas and so on and so forth, and I'd say to them, listen, there's some stuff showing up at the house, like big books and, like meeting schedules and so on and so forth, and I think my wife at the time thinks I'm an alcoholic. What do you think? And they'd look at me and say, are you kidding me? You drink just like we do, and we don't have a problem. And that's exactly
Asking
what
the
I
wrong
needed
people.
to hear.
Yeah.
That's the wrong people. I
That's
was
right.
asking,
That's right.
So, the whole point of the matter is I didn't think I was a drunk.
Yeah.
Okay. But my ex-wife had enough, and she said, out. And she had every right to say out, because not only was I drinking, but everything that went along with that to degrade her emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, the whole bit went along with that too. And I say that with no pride. I say it so that folks that are listening know that that's one of the awful things about alcoholism, because it's a family disease.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
So again, being not only alcoholic, I also happen to be codependent. And so I found myself at the home away from home for impending divorces here in West Des Moines, actually in Clive, called the Warren Terrace Apartments. And for the first time in my life, I really was then on my own and had no concept of how to take care of myself whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so I called my ex-wife and I said, this again was the manipulation. Let's see if you'll kind of take me back and kind of take care of me. When she was the problem, how stupid is that? But that was the thought pattern. Let's see if you'll come back and take care of me. And then maybe I'll check myself into PAL. And then that began the treatment aspect of it. Again, not thinking that I was a drunk, but maybe I'd be able to get the caretaker back.
Yeah, sure.
And she came to PAL with me. I was an outpatient. I was designated, or whatever it's called, outpatient. I didn't need to be inpatient. And she came along as my concerned person, which was just, again, a little bit crazy, but that's what happened. So what really was the link, and this is the honest to goodness truth for me starting to believe it. There was a counselor by the name of Carl, Big Carl, who was my counselor at PAL. And he said to me about the 26th day, because I think it was about a 28-day program, and he said, you really just don't get it, do you? And I thought, well, how can you talk to me that way? I'm kind of a sensitive individual. And he did. He was serious. And he pulled me aside and he said, listen, he said, you've gone through 5 steps in this outpatient program. And he said, I've watched you. He said, what you've got is about 2% of recovery. That's all you've got is 2%. He said the other 98% of it comes in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I suggest you get your rear end to 90 meetings in 90 days. And for some reason, it was a God thing. I know now. I took him up on that advice. And that was kind of my foundation, was those 90 meetings in 90 days. And then I said I was an alcoholic in treatment because I had to get out.
Yeah.
I also had to take steps 1 through 5 to get out, so I did
Did
it.
you get the camel?
No.
pin?
They don't do that there.
I don't think I got a camel.
Okay.
If I did, I probably wouldn't have worn it anyway, but because I didn't think I was an alcoholic.
Right.
So anyway, I'd say probably about 45 to 50 days into the deal, I finally choked out, hi, my name's Carl, and I'm an alcoholic. And that was the first time I admitted it. And then from that standpoint, then what happened is, and Lila knows this, dear friend too, Gary T., who was my first sponsor, is what really got me onto the place. And he was just a little right of Attila the Hun and did for me what exactly I needed to have done. And that is he worked my rear end off and had me take a real good look at who I was and
Yeah.
start realizing the fact that you weren't the problem and booze wasn't the problem and I'm the problem, and therefore if I'm the problem, with the appropriate humbleness and willing to work the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, I could be part of the solution.
What is Carl's life like now? 27 and a half years sober. When we come back, we'll wrap it up here in The Good Life, here live on Powell CDC Recovery Monday on KTIA, Iowa.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
If you choose to obey the power of sin, it leads to death. If you choose to obey obedience, it leads to righteousness.
Forgiveness is just the beginning of life in Christ. God wants us to live for Him now.
And because of Jesus Christ, the gospel was preached, and you and I are blessed today because of Abraham. Did you know that? We're blessed.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Ten minutes before the top Salem Radio Network news, and then, of course, True Blue with Pastor Michael Mudloff. My guest today, Carl Drautz. He is 27 and a half years sober. Lila, of course, is here from Powell CDC, as this program is brought to you by the good folks at Powell CDC, and Ryan is producing. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and if I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. I love this job and couldn't do it without you. Right here on KTIA, powered by webcast1live.com. So, you do the 90 and 90. You get a sponsor. How's life then?
Challenging. No question, it was challenging. Sobriety's not easy. There's no deal that says when you quit drinking, there isn't anything in the big book that I know, the black parts say, you quit drinking, life's going to get better.
Yeah.
And you're going to get discovered and things are going to be magnificent. That's not the case at all. In fact, life marches on. Life will throw punches in and out, right in your face and your stomach and your gut, wherever it might be.
Well, you wanted to get drinking so you could get your caretaker back, and in return, you lost your marriage.
I did.
Why?
I kept doing the same things I was doing when I was drinking.
Just not drinking.
And just not drinking.
So you didn't improve as a person?
Not at all.
Were you a dry drunk?
That's kind.
Okay. But you were going to 90 and 90. No impact yet?
No impact yet. In fact, this was, I think I was in the program for 8 years when we got a divorce. I think it was 8 or 9 years.
Wow. I remember sitting across from a mutual friend of ours, Mac, and we were having a cup of coffee. This is when I was coming to see you and coming to see people trying to decide whether I wanted to get into a 12-step program. And I said, man, I don't think my marriage will make it if I don't quit drinking. And he said, there's a good chance it won't make it if you do quit drinking.
Right.
I'll never forget that moment in Perkins going, what the? How in the heck could that happen? And we did. We hit a tough time about 6-7 months into it. You know? So now you are, Lila, would you agree that he is an example?
Absolutely, yeah.
In the 12-step program of someone who follows the 12-step sincerely?
Yeah.
And the 12-step is simply that you help other guys and gals.
That's a 12-step,
But he leads by example.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you always have something good to say in a meeting. I'm just curious, have you ever passed?
Have I ever passed what?
Yeah, when it came time for you to talk and share?
Absolutely.
Have you? Okay, all right. Because I always look forward to having you say something, and I don't ever recall you saying, I'm just going to sit and listen today. And when you say that, why?
When I pass?
Yeah, why?
Well,
Because it's always in you, right?
It's always there. I'll use the old adage is that, someone might start out and they introduce themselves, hi, I'm Tom, or I'm Mary, or I'm Bill, or whomever, and I really don't have a whole lot to say, and 15 minutes later they prove it.
Yeah.
Seriously, so if I don't have a lot to say, if there isn't anything that I can add that really is going to maybe, again, through the message, nothing to do with me, help someone else in that meeting, I'll just pass.
Okay. Share with me a couple of glorious memories you have because of this program. And then in a minute, share a couple with me that you had that were pretty tragic because of this program.
It's funny. We're going to start out with some of the. I have a 6-month-old grandson that I am absolutely the most proud grandfather that there ever could be.
Yeah.
His name is Moses Drautz. He will be the last. Right now is the last. He's going to be the legacy of the name. He and his parents live out in Denver, and Moses will never see his grandfather drunk, and I'm very, very happy with that. I have 2 fantastic stepchildren who have never seen me drink, and I'm very proud of that. I have an absolute unbelievable wife who, like I said, she's taken the place of my good old sponsor, Gary T., because she, again, is also a little right of the till of the hun. And
I've met her. I don't think
you've met her, but she's not a caretaker whatsoever. She,
okay.
If you've got this deal, don't come talk to me about it. Get your butt to a meeting or go talk to your sponsor or act opposite to what you really want to do. And,
yeah.
And I'm very grateful for her. And I have got a beautiful daughter who is married with a great son who she's the young lady who called me at the bar. And if Lila, this is when you go back and you have so many friends that become like family. When she got married, it was a very tenuous and painful time for me because this was not a very happy divorce. It was very acrimonious. And Lila and her husband, Jim, and some dear friends, Lark and Lou, and my mother, I think that was our contingency, traveled out to Denver because they got married, and it was not a very pleasant affair. But that's the consequences of my drinking. Today, my daughter and I have probably the strongest relationship you'd ever want between a father and a daughter. And that didn't come easy. That came from me wanting to say and do the things that I thought were right, and the folks in AA saying, no, you better not do that. You're the adult, you're the dad, and you need to love them. You need to turn them over to the God of your understanding. You need to let God love them, and you need to stay in contact with them. And I did that. Even though I didn't want to, I did that. And now our relationship between my son and my daughter have never probably been stronger. So that's a highlight. So, but the biggest highlight today is that I can wake up this morning and be truly grateful for being sober. And that's a miracle because I have nothing to do with it.
And probably alive.
And alive. Yeah, that's true. And alive. There's no
Because if
question.
you had kept drinking the way you were drinking, you wouldn't, I don't know how old you are, 57, 58?
Thank you. Absolutely. I've had a lot of work done. I'm 66.
Are you really?
Yeah, I really am.
Okay, but you wouldn't have made it that long.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Because
I don't think the malady of the internal organs and so on and so forth. But I've never had a DWI. I was lucky is all.
Yeah.
I never got into an accident because I was drinking. I'm lucky is all. I never killed somebody because I was drinking. I'm lucky is all. But yeah, it would have happened. There would have been no question about it. Because it's a disease that will kill you.
Now, I purposely started with the good ones because I want us to be reminded of the bad ones. And we're going through that right now as a family, you guys stronger than I am, where you've got somebody that you've been in the program with for a long time, and this person's son drank himself to death. And the word's just starting to get around the community right now.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
That's very hard.
It's not just hard because you know the dad. It's hard you know the circumstances in which it happened. And if I understand it correctly, you spoke to him a couple times, the young man.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, more than a couple times. Yeah. We spoke quite a bit. And we'd call each other. And his dad and myself are very close. We've been in the program together. We've gone through a lot of ups and downs together. And he called me last night at about 10:30 or 10:45 in tears, and I knew something was wrong. And that's when he said Jeff killed himself. And he was just pulling up, and he had just found out. And we've texted back and forth this morning, but it's something that I'm very sad about. But I'm going to also tell you this. You know, my heart is heavy for both Jeff and his family. But I'm also very, very angry. Angry is not a right word. I'm rageful at this disease because it's a disease of deceit and it will kill us. And to drink is to die. And people, I think the other thing that I really kind of, it makes me feel so sad is that when I see people come in, it's this concept of I'm really not dealing with a terminal illness.
Right.
I'm going to get the monkey off my back and things are going to get better. And in the meantime, I'm going to kind of go to this coffee klatch type group, maybe once or twice or 3 times a week and, you know, that type of thing. And God bless them. I'm glad they're coming. I'd never show them away. But I got to tell you, it's a disease that we're dying with. Absolutely. And drink is to die. And that really upsets me about this disease because it is deceitful and it lies to us all the time.
By the way, one of our good listeners, Jill, just texted me and said, make sure that you know that you weren't lucky, that God protected you so you could be here today and share your story with me.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, Carl. I love you.
You're
Appreciate
welcome. I love
being
you
here.
too. Thank you.
Thank you, Lila. We'll see you next Monday. Ryan, thanks for doing a good job. See you tomorrow here with Tom Coates as we expose Jack Hatch. And until then, do me a favor. Just pray.